A few days ago, he was right back there calling the post positions for Kentucky Derby 151. Now he's with us, hanging out in the paddock at Churchill Downs. It's track announcer Travis Stone. Before we talk about this year's race, I got to say, is there ever a moment where you look back and say, holy hell, I just called a 3-horse photo finish in Kentucky Derby 150?
All the time. I listen to that replay quite often as I try and figure out what to improve upon for this year, and I can still feel the butterflies when they turn for home and there's like 10 horses in the frame. But yeah, that was wild.
They've been really wild as of late, and this year I know you do your research, you study the program, obviously, to prepare for what might happen in this race. We've got a lot of speed on the inside, a lot of closers on the outside. Could we have another potentially dramatic finish this year?
I hope not. I'm ready for a break. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speed. A lot of horses to the inside have real gas. So they're supposed to go pretty quick in here. But Journalism, who figures to be a big favorite and is the horse to beat, probably falls into a perfect trip almost always. So unless something weird happens to him, I think he's in good shape.
And it is one of those things where the way it lays out, you're like, so the favorite gets the best spot too? Like, it shouldn't go like this, but do you think Journalism really is a horse that could be one of those runaway winners that is a legitimate and bona fide Triple Crown contender?
I don't want to crown him early. He reminds me a little bit in this field of Barbaro, who won fairly easily back in 2006, I think it was. I'm anticipating or preparing for a Barbaro-like win, but this is horse racing. That's why we run the races, so we'll see. There's a lot of really good closers, and I would say if Journalism runs his race, he's going to turn for home and he's going to take the lead, and then it's whether or not he's good enough to fend off some of these deep closers that have real run, but they might have too much to do.
Of those closers, which ones are you keeping your eye on that might be able to catch him?
I think the three big ones are the main ones. I think you've got Sandman, who's got legitimate late kick, Sovereignty, who's probably going to swing very wide with his post position. I'm also going to keep an eye on toward the inside Burnham Square. I think Brian might have a little trick up his sleeve to try and negotiate an inside trip with him, and maybe a little Tiz-tastic too. There's like three other ones, Final Gambit, Flying Mohawk, and Publisher. They all have real speed too late in the race. So, like I said, I hope it's easy and it's just Journalism by 5.
Brian certainly had a trick up his sleeve last year. Don't worry, we are not interrupting the anthem. This is just practice. They're just serenading us in the background.
I thought you were singing it. I'm confused. I had you as the intro.
So, turning the page of the Oaks, another big favorite, Good Cheer. She's been awesome here. She won by 17 in the slop last year at this track. 3 for 3 here, 6 for 6 lifetime. But there's some other good fillies in that race. Who do you have your eye on that maybe could push Good Cheer in the Kentucky Oaks?
All these horses have looked good all week for the Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby, but one of them has looked exceptional. That's Lacara. Mm-hmm. And Mark Cassidy is very bullish on her chances. There's a lot of speed in the Oaks. I think that's going to be real fast-paced as well. So that might compromise Lacara a bit. Good Cheer's way the filly to beat. I get it. But I have one long shot I've been telling people to think about in their tries and their superfectas, and that's Quick Kick. She might just drop way back to the back of the pack and come with that one run and just pick off a bunch of tired speed horses, and she's going to be 30, 40, 50 to 1. But Good Cheer is so much the filly to beat. She's done nothing wrong. She's really talented. She has a good running style for this race, and I'll be surprised if she doesn't win or at least run a good race and be right there.
You say Lacara, I say Lacara, Lacara, tomato, potato. The undercard on Friday in particular, I haven't dug in enough on Saturday, but there's some big names in there. Last year's Oaks winner, Torpedo Anna, the horse of the year, the super filly. She's back for her second start this year. And then Fierceness, he makes his spring debut. Is it going to be the day of the favorites, or we got some vulnerable favorites out there?
As a race caller, I have to remain impartial.
Of course.
But it's hard not to root for Torpedo Anna. However, I did a seminar last night, and I told the folks there, I think she's beatable. I didn't love her race at Oaklawn. I felt like they had gotten to the bottom of her in there. I haven't liked her races since the Travers last year. I feel like she might have gone over the top in that race. She's certainly capable. She's obviously very good, but she's got some real competition. And so I said, if you're looking to make some real cash and you beat Torpedo Anna, you're cooking with fire for sure. I think Fierceness is probably going to need the race. He's coming off a longer layoff than Lock Locked. Locked, of course, ran out in the Santa Anita Handicap. Those are two very good horses. I just feel like Fierceness is probably prepping for something a little bit more serious down the road, whereas Locked has more recency and is probably going to be a little bit sharper.
If Torpedo Anna loses, it will be just like She Dares the Devil, and I love that filly. She won the Oaks. She was back. I believe that was Derby Day undercard, or I forget which one, but it was that weekend, and I got my heart ripped out when my favorite filly lost, and maybe that's the case again with Torpedo Anna. Travis, I want to thank you personally because you called my late pick 5 ticket on Saturday, my pick 3, my double. We quadrupled our Derby bankroll. So hopefully we're going to keep that rolling because there's a lot of great races this weekend at Churchill.
What's my commission on the score?
We don't have to get into that, but you know what? Here's your commission. I gave you some potential Derby winning calls the last time we talked, and I got maybe a few more. Right. Now, these aren't as, I admittedly haven't done as much homework, but this one's easy, right? Like, Tis-tastic is fantastic. I mean, you've already had that one prepped up your sleeve, right?
No, that's a little corny for me. I like to be a little bit more unique.
Okay, you're exactly right. That was why it was a terrible suggestion. But I do think if Toby Keith, if Render Judgment can somehow get to the finish line as a long shot, which probably not going to happen. Huge long shot last from the field. It's one of Toby Keith's old horses. I think you got to rip off a "How do you like me now?"
or Red Solo Cup, or something like that. Maybe.
Fill up the Derby Cup and let's have a party.
Let's have a Red Solo Cup party. Yeah. I don't think I have to worry about it, but maybe.
Yeah. I don't think you do, but. Travis, it's always a pleasure. We love hearing your calls here at Churchill Downs. We're fired up for Kentucky Derby 151. Who knows what's going to happen? That's what makes this the most magical weekend of the year.